Is Bryce Harper overrated or not?
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Philly Thoughts Show videocast, and tonight we're going to be having a debate whether Bryce Harper is overrated or not. I'm joined by our special guest, John, who has been on this VCast before. So, John, welcome back.
Thanks, Luke. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and John's going to be taking the side that Bryce Harper is overrated. I'm going to be taking the side that Bryce Harper is not overrated. Now, guys, before we get into this video, please subscribe if you have not yet. Please turn on the notification bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into this. This is the first debate I've had on my show before. I'm super excited to get into it. So we're going to be talking about Bryce Harper's stats, advanced stats, regular stats, and I think there's different ways you could look at this. You could say, is he overrated? Just saying a player's overrated is a general, thing to say. Is he overrated because of the contract he received, or is he overrated because of how hyped up before he was going into his major league career? Of course, Bryce Harper was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at the age of 16 years old, and he did win an MVP in 2015 and won Rookie of the Year in 2012. So I just want to jump right into it, and I want to give John the first question here, and I'm going to give him a little bit of a chance to explain why he thinks that Bryce Harper is overrated. So, John, you take the floor here.
Okay. Thanks, Luke. Well, first of all, you covered a lot of ground there as to why I probably think, and most people think, he's overrated. A lot of it has to do with the press he got before he even came into baseball. Not many teenager baseball players are on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and the expectations for this guy have been sky high ever since he got into baseball. Absolutely. So, in all fairness to him, it's a lot of pressure, awful lot of pressure. When he signed his contract, he was, the number one paid player. But it's interesting. Yeah. And just looking at a few things before I agreed to come on the show, he's probably, number 10, 11, 12 now. There's like 10 guys ahead of him now as far as what their pay is every year. He's not up toward the top as far as highest paid. No, he's by far the highest paid guy on the Phillies. And absolutely. We have high expectations for the guy. So absolutely. From that standpoint, I feel like he has underperformed, and a lot of that has to do with what my expectations were, but also the expectations the Phillies set for me as a fan. All this fanfare and the publicity and the meetings and the show and tell, and this is going to make us winners, and unfortunately we haven't won since he came, and that's. Let me
if I could just stop right there for a second. I understand the point that he hasn't won since he's been here. But to make, my first little argument here, it's, it doesn't fall into his hands. And I know you maybe haven't had a chance to say that yet, but, we all know how terrible the Phillies bullpen is and how bad their pitching staff is, for that matter. And arguably the offense has really underperformed since he arrived here. And I understand Bryce Harper's not perfect. I'm not saying that at all. Of course, I'm taking the side he's not overrated, which I do not think that he is overrated. But I just want to throw that out there. You look at the Los Angeles Angels, Mike Trout, the best player in this game of baseball. Last time Angels made the playoffs was 2014, and they don't win every year. So, they've been a pretty bad baseball team for many years. So you can continue.
Well, that was exactly the point I was going to make. And, even though I'm arguing the point that I think he's overrated, I still can see both sides of it. And part of my analysis to get ready to talk to you was to have an open mind and look at it from as objective as I could. Sure. And I think there's absolutely no question myself and most of the fans would not be, let's say, as negative. We still might think he's overrated, but we would not be as negative towards him if the Phillies were winning, if they were in the World Series, if our expectations were met. Now, you're right. He has nothing to do with the bullpen. He can't pick those players. He might be able to, because of his stature and his status in the company, he might be able to tell them, hey, guys, you got to get pitchers. But he's not the one writing the check, so he can't. Absolutely. He has no control over that. So I'm trying to give him, fair treatment here. Yeah. So from that standpoint, we might be having this argument. If we'd been in the World Series two years since he came here, maybe won whatever, we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion.
Yeah, because it would be irrelevant, really, because we're winning.
That's right.
I see your point.
And he could be here for 10 more years, and if we don't win, we're going to be having the same debate.
Right.
Is he overrated? Is he overrated? And the only reason that Mike Trout doesn't have that same debate, because he's on a bad team, is he's so doggone good. You cannot question that guy.
Right.
I mean, you look at
year
him.
in and year out, he's a machine. Yeah.
He's at another level.
Yeah.
So, so he gets a pass. There's no question about it. So, anyway.
Yeah, I see your point. I do see your point. I mean, he's a tremendous athlete, and Bryce Harper does have a lot of up and down seasons, and he's nowhere near the level of Mike Trout. I mean, that's a mutual thing we can both agree on, of course. I'm sure you would definitely agree with it. I mean, me arguing that he's not overrated, I can even agree to it, that Mike Trout is far superior than Bryce Harper. There's no question about it. The stats prove it, and he's just an all-around phenomenal baseball player. I mean, Bryce Harper is a fantastic baseball player, too, but he's nowhere near the level of Mike Trout, of course. But I just wanted to just go over some stats here as we kind of dig into the stats. And, everybody wants to bring up the old school stats of batting average and home runs and RBIs and, all this kind of stuff. But there's, a new age of baseball that kind of started up during the Moneyball era of the Oakland A's, of course. And, digging into other stats, we've seen fan graphs and things like that pop up over the past, 10, 15 years of a new way of looking at baseball, the MLB nerds, as you could say, the analytics and, the analytical part of the game that has really, transformed in the game. Of course, over the past 10 years, as I said earlier, starting up with the Oakland A's, Moneyball era, you're starting to see managers, use heavily using analytics. For example, Phillies former manager Gabe Kapler now with the Giants, big on analytics. There's a lot of analytical guys out there, a lot of younger managers that really heavily rely on the analytics. And I'm not an MLB nerd. I'm not saying that at all. Everybody watches this show. You guys know that I do pay attention to the advanced stats. I trust the advanced stats. Like, I don't live and die by the advanced stats. I'm not some MLB super nerd who lives and dies by it and says, well, this guy, had a, WRC plus of this, and then this guy, I don't argue, to that degree. Like, I don't get down like that deep all the time. You guys know that. I mean, because I focus on a lot of the batting average and things like that, of course. But if you look at Bryce Harper's advanced stats, they prove that he's not overrated. Let me explain. If you look at the league average bar, that gets the rest of the league and the average and puts it on a bar and a scale, Bryce Harper is far above that scale. And if you look at Money WAR, which takes, wins above replacement, compares with every other player in that position around the league, you get that, and they actually do Money WAR, which gets the wins that player gets, compares to the money. Bryce Harper, 2019 season, which he earned $25 million in annual average annual salary. Bryce Harper actually should have earned $36.5 million according to MLB, Fangraphs, according to, Money WAR. He should have earned $36.5 million, and he only received $25 million. And if you're going to go look at the, batted balls in play, I mean, you could, of course, argue that his 2016 season definitely was an average year. It's right around the average bar. But every other year since then, he's one of the most unlikely players in baseball, and he does put a lot of balls in play. His barrel rate is through the roof, right? He always makes a lot of contact. I tell you what, the shift really does kill him. There's no question about it. This guy barrels up balls that you can't believe. And, still way above league average. As I said, his batting average, you can argue that it is around league average. I mean, past 2 years, it's around 250, 260. I understand that. But his advanced stats, you just cannot argue it. You look at his WOBA, his WRC plus, his WAR. I mean, this guy is a phenomenal baseball player. He's an on-base machine. This guy draws so many walks. He walked more than he struck out in 2020. And once again, this proves that he's not overrated, right? I mean, we saw a prorated salaries this year. He did not earn his $25 million. According to WAR, he should have gotten $12.9 million. So, once again, John, I'm going to hand it right back to you, and, feel free to interrupt me if you disagree with something I say. I forgot to mention that before you came on here.
Okay. Well, the stuff you're telling me is interesting. Well, again, the problem with what you're saying is, well, two things. I'm more from the old school, so I understand a lot of the new stats. I don't put as much importance on them as you might. Okay.
Right.
And I not saying you're a nerd about it, but I still like a lot of the old average or the old statistics better. But you just made a point. One year, it showed that he was underpaid, and another year he's overpaid. So if you look at that average, so you're going to see, using those statistics, one year he's up, one year he's down, one year he's up. It's going to fluctuate year to year. So you almost have to look at this over a 10-year period to see if he's really overrated or not, because it's tough to look at 1 year. If I was looking at those statistics, I'd be arguing the year that he was overpaid and say, well, look at this year. He got paid too much. So again,
16 was a down year. Yeah.
Right. The other thing I would say is one of the difficulties with the statistics is, and it's really no different, I guess, in the old school of when guys picked players, and they developed players. They look at their swing, and they looked at their speed, and they looked at this, and they looked at that. They couldn't look at their hearts. They couldn't look at their head. They couldn't look at those things like that. And I think one of the problems that I question about the Phillies is they may have all the statistics in the world, but do they know how to read them? Do they know how to interpret them? Do they know how
I understand. There's a mental side.
To make good decisions, You can give them all the statistics in the world. If they can't use them to make good decisions, if you look at, I don't know what statistics they're looking at to build their bullpen, but I think they better start doing it a different way, because it's not working.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
And you and I have talked over the last 2 years about the Phillies on paper have a good enough team to be in the hunt for the World Series, but we both know without the pitching improvement, they're not going to get there. And they, so far, they've done nothing now for the second year to do anything to improve their pitching. So it's kind of frustrating to see a guy like Bryce, and we're kind of just having this debate about that, which I think is fun to do. But meanwhile, they're doing nothing to help change the team to make it better.
I agree.
The other thing I was going to say is that I think that one of the things that hurts Bryce again is he came here with these high expectations and all the fanfare. And if you look at his performance, now again, it's only been roughly a year and a half. And again, one of the important things is his batting average. His batting average is about 20 points lower here than it was at the Nationals. Well, instead of 280, he's around 260 with the Phillies. Well, if he'd gone the other way and gone to 300 here instead of 280 where he was with the Nationals, that would be, everybody would be happy. Everybody would be talking different in a different way. So that's where statistics hurt, especially when the team isn't winning, because then people just start nitpicking,
Right,
and,
exactly.
And in many ways, they're not fair. I think he's overrated, but I do think people are unfair about it.
Let me ask you something, if this is all right. I want you to explain why you think he's overrated. Give me a certain stat that proves. I mean, I understand that there are some stats out there that, you could argue overrated. What is the hook, line, and sinker? What makes you think that Bryce Harper is overrated?
Well, okay. I think two things. One, and I'll just give you a snapshot of one, but also give you what my expectation is, because if I look at the short season last year, he's one of the top 10 paid guys in baseball. And let's face it, probably, I don't know what his percentage is, probably a third or, there's part of that top 10 is our pitchers. So we can't compare him to a pitcher. So when you start looking at the top 10, day-to-day players, there's probably 6 or 8, that we're talking about here. Well, if you look at his stats last year, the 268 batting average, that was 66 in all of baseball. You look at his home run total, he was tied for 24th. If you look at his RBIs, he was tied for 43rd. If you look at his OPS, he was 13th. So when you look at those kind of averages compared to the league, and you look at where his pay is compared to the league, he's overrated.
Well, let me just say this. So, the advanced stats like WRC plus, WOBA, balls in play and things like that, all of those, and of course WAR, as I keep saying, all those stats proved against of what you say, and it actually proved that he's not overrated. And if you're going to look at the walk rate, something you didn't mention is he actually led the major leagues in walks, and he actually had the lowest strikeout percentage of his career. I understand it was a shortened season of his career, and he actually walked more than he struck out. You're talking about a power hitter who, he had the highest amount of strikeouts in 2019, follows up with the lowest strikeout rate. Has the highest strikeout rate of his career, and then there was the lowest strikeout rate in his career within a season. As I said, the numbers, the WAR, proved, and if you're going to go look at his 2015 season, which was off the charts, the best year out of position player in the 2010 decade, he actually, according to WAR, as I said from Fangraphs, he actually was worth around $74 million that year, average annual salary, which is just absolutely off the charts, as I keep saying. And that's just 1 year. I understand that, he followed up with a down 16 season. He was injured in 17. He was on track to, put up similar numbers in 17. Of course, he had that devastating knee injury while running the first base. He slipped on the bag, had to be helped off the field. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, some stats, he's not where I think he should be. I happen to agree with you, but he follows up with, getting on base and generating runs, for the team and everything like that. And you're going to go look at his RBI total from last year, tops in like the NL. He had 114 RBIs last year. He was a run producing machine, last year. And I understand you can't really compare it to this year due to the 60-game season. But his RBIs, were still, decent amounts. So, he's a run producing machine. He, gets on base a ton. He's a good asset to have on the team. As I said, is he going to go out there and bat 300 for you every single year? No. We don't really, as I said, he follows up with, if his advanced stats, were not as good as they are, then I would be on your side and say, yeah, I definitely agree with you. But he follows up with getting on base and, not to mention his defense is, it wasn't a great defensive season 2020, but you can't really, argue about 2020 stats due to the shortened season. You go back and look at last year, which was a full season, in 2019, his, defensive stats were one of the best of his career. Once again, we're going back and forth here. But I definitely think he makes up for some of the stats that he lacks in, like batting average. And I understand, if power numbers were down, he was, going off the season, in August, he was doing great. Went through a little bit of a, power outage a little bit with his home runs for a little while, for a few weeks, and it kind of went dormant. Kind of turned it on again at the end of the season. Of course, he battled some back problems this year to, a lot of reports, that were close to the Phillies. There's a lot to take apart of that. But of course, we're talking about statistics and the numbers, do prove that, he is where he's actually earned the money that he's gotten and more, these past 2 years since getting paid $25 million a year for a 13-year contract.
Well, I think you kind of helped make my point. Okay. One of the things you just said was, I see your point. He's not where he should be. I don't think he's where he should be. That's the point I'm making. Is he a great player?
Well, I did not say Absolutely. that. I said on certain things like batting average and home runs.
That's right.
But he actually makes up for it with his advanced stats, though.
See, I don't see that.
With his advanced stats. I see that.
I see advanced stats. I see advanced stats that are good, are better than his actual.
These are
stats.
Way above the average. They're way above the average.
Okay, you've got advanced stats that are above the average. You've got
way
other.
It's not just
stats.
a little bit; it's way above.
Okay, you got other stats that are below average, and if you look at where the guy's paid, which is probably, when you look at full-time position players, he's probably 6th, 7th in the league. Okay. I think when you blend all that together, and I'm not saying he's a lousy player because the advanced stats say he's very good, but his other stats, which are more, I think, black and white, but batting average, black and white, yes or no, he's batting, 268 or whatever. Well, when you blend all that together, is all I'm saying, he's underperforming. That's why I think he's overrated.
Yeah,
right
but the
now.
stat wins above replacement does combine all that stuff together. It's not just a stat that says, it's something that, it's not just an individual stat like, slugging percentage, which the slugging percentage I forgot to talk about, still way above the league average, by the way. But that doesn't even include, that includes everything, right? It compares to all the other players in that position throughout the league. So that's an overall stat. That's not something that is just, it's not like, WOBA or anything like that. It's an all-around stats. It got all of his stats and combines into that, and it transforms what he thinks, what WAR thinks that he should earn per year. And
Okay.
as I said, he got paid $25 million last year. And according to WAR, they did all of his stats, all of his advanced stats. Once I said were through the roof, 114 RBIs, which isn't even, as I said, it's not really a new school stat. It's been around for a while, of course. 114 RBIs, 99 walks. I think you are leaving out a little bit of the walks, right, which is a huge part of the game. On base percentage is becoming a huge part of the game, of course. More than it was, say like 20, 30 years ago.
No, I give him credit for that. I do. The strikeouts being down, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Has he improved in some areas? Absolutely has. I just think he needs to improve more.
I love
you and I are probably not going to ever agree on this because I think you put way too much emphasis on the other stats, and I probably put too much on the batting average and things like that because we're just looking at it differently. And I also look at him compared to Mike Trout and Manny Machado.
Which you can't.
And this guy from Colorado, what's his name?
Nolan Arenado?
Yeah, Arenado. Great player. I mean, he doesn't.
When he's in court field, he's a great player.
Up to the level of those three guys, and so he's a very good player, but he's not.
Yeah, I have to disagree with that. But
he's not.
I'd agree with Mike Trout, but I don't agree with Machado and Nolan Arenado. But you can go ahead.
Okay, that's okay. That's and again, I didn't mention it because I had it on my chart to talk about it.
Sure.
But I think last year his defense was average. He made some bonehead plays out there.
He did. I would agree. I mean, 2020 was not a great year defensively for Bryce Harper. There's no question.
And if you look back, a lot of
2019 was much better.
Has written that he isn't a great defensive player. I mean, I don't think he's terrible by any means, but I just think he isn't worth what he's being paid now. But I definitely think he's got the potential. I'm happy he's on the Phillies team. If they get some pitching, that's the other thing. When you know your team can't hold the other team down with runs, you put more pressure on yourself to try to do things. I got to hit a home run, or I got to get this. And another stat I totally disagree with is putting the ball in play. And I'm unlucky. I don't care if you're unlucky. I don't care if you put the ball in play. If you hit it to the same place where the guy's playing and you make it out, I don't care. It doesn't help me at all. If you can't get on base by walking or hitting, I don't care.
I understand. Yeah, well, as I said, I mean, a lot of baseball is luck, and it doesn't matter if you hit a screaming line drive or jam stop that stings your hands and it happens to fall right in front of the right fielder. It's still going to get out as a single. Yeah,
absolutely. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet.
The scorecard's not going to say, "Oh, well, you lined out hard to third base." Should have been a hit. It's just going to go down as a line out, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. Well, it's like listening to Larry Anderson or the guys on this, TV or radio. They explained that it was a screaming line drive to center field, and the defensive guy jumped and hit the wall and caught it for an out. You look at the score sheet the next morning, and he flied out to center field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so official stats, it doesn't add up. I agree with what you're saying. In some ways, and I would like to see him hit for a higher average. It's something that I said on here for a while, and he is getting paid a lot of money. I still don't think he's overrated, but I like to see him improve and hit for a higher average around 280, 290. Yeah, I would. I mean, I think that he is definitely capable of it. I would like to see it happen. But I'm really glad that we had this discussion, and I hope everybody enjoyed the first debate. I hope to continue this and debate other topics. It doesn't even have to be Phillies related. I could have, other people on here talking about some other issues. I've been talking about the, other things with Nolan Arenado and Anthony Rendon, who's the best third baseman in baseball. I'm on the side that Anthony Rendon is. I could probably find somebody out there who believes that Nolan Arenado is. Which is totally false. Right. But John, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed our discussion.
Could I add one more thing in favor of Harper? Because I'm helping you out a little bit. Harper is not being helped by having guys like Hoskins bat either in front of him or behind him. When you don't have guys batting in the lineup that the other team is afraid to pitch to, that just makes it harder for Harper.
Absolutely, it does. No one wants to really pitch to him because they know that they could just go and face Hoskins, who's going to stare at all these pitches right down the middle of the plate. You should assume that.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot, Luke.
All right, no problem. All right, guys. Please subscribe if you have not yet. Please turn the notification bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Check out the social media link in the description section. At Philly Toss of Instagram, Harper next Instagram. Call or text 267-225-3392. Email us, phillytosses@gmail.com. I was joined by John tonight. We debated whether Bryce Harper is overrated or not. Let me know in the comments who do you think won this discussion. I'm Luke, and I will talk to you later. I'll see you guys.